Hello. Today I'd like to share my testimony. And a lot goes into it, so I'll just call this my turbo testimony. But basically, I started off on a very, very good path. I was blessed to have two parents that loved me with an agape, unconditional love, even when I didn't deserve it. They raised me right. They raised me to love Jesus. They raised me in the Word. And I had a secure, solid upbringing. I wasn't spoiled, but I didn't have needs. They protected me and sheltered me in ways that I wish every parent did for their child. Now, I accepted the Lord when I was 6 and got baptized, and I knew what I was doing, but still I don't know if I fully grasped it. So I'll say it was more like 12 when I really knew that I was saved. Now, with my upbringing, my parents, it could be considered strict, and I hated it at the time, but I realize now down the road how much protection it actually gave me. My parents they disciplined me. I had a curfew that I hated, but they kept me away from some worldly things that has seeped into a lot of generations. And I will say this, that even in Exodus, the Lord says, do not have other idols, do not have other gods before me, because I'm a jealous God. And even the sins of the parents can fall on the children. And more so than that, even those that hate me, said the Lord, I will take out vengeance to the 3rd and 4th generation. So, most of us are dealing with generational curses that get passed down. But the way our parents have raised us directly impacts who we become. As Proverbs says, raise a kid up in the way he should go, and in the end he will not depart from it. And that is how the story ends, but I'll get there. So all throughout high school, pretty much, I was a pretty good kid. I was a loner. I had my little group of 4 or 5 friends that I hung out with in my neighborhood, but mainly a loner. I played a lot of sports. I was living what could be considered a good life, as far as doing what God wanted from me and being a good kid. Now, I was raised in what I would consider now as a spiritually dead church. It was going all right, but the pastor was one of those pastors that would have a booklet and repeat the same exact sermons every year. It was pretty boring, to be honest. Also, I'm dealing with a pastor that got infuriated when realized that his salary might go down when the funding wasn't what they wanted. There's a lot of things that pointed to someone who might not have been anointed for the position, and I was kind of left in a spiritual funk going into college. Now, when I got to college, like I said, up till my senior year and in my summer, I was doing really good and not doing, I would say, that much bad at all. Well, summer, right before college started, I started thinking about some things. And then I got to college and protection was gone. Well, I went to school in Mississippi, and where everyone's a Christian. So I went from kind of a spiritually dead church to a place where, why are you a Christian? Oh, because I was raised that way. No, why are you? Because my parents were. Not many people were living out their faith and actually living a Christ-centered life. So I was starting to see hypocrisy, and this is where I kind of started fading a little bit. Now, I was there for tennis, and so I didn't really get it's not that I didn't get the chance to party and get into drugs and alcohol. It's that I actually got in with a fraternity that would be considered those kind of guys. But I was still not really doing a whole lot of that because of tennis, because I didn't have the desire. It wasn't put into me at a young age, and I could see the dangers in it. So I go through, still pretty shy, and I get into my sophomore year and I meet what I think is the girl for me. Not just the girl for me, but the girl. I mean, Christian girl. I thought she was going to be the one. I was still a virgin, saving myself for marriage, and dated her my entire sophomore year. Everything was going amazing. And it was at the end of my sophomore year, she ended up breaking up with me, and that's when I started really spiraling. I didn't know what had hit me. I started looking into other things. I started going down a road with girls where it didn't matter anymore if I saved myself for marriage, which was and always has been my kryptonite, is women and following my worldly desires and my lustful thoughts. Well, that led to some depression and some really questioning who I was. But also, I'm in a place where everyone is claiming Christianity, except no one's really living it. You're talking about the guy that would be hammered Saturday night and then be preaching on Sunday to the youth group. It was not something that attracted me at all. Well, I started spinning at this time. My junior year of college, I was sleeping around. I was not really partying yet, but I was starting to get involved in other activities, and that's when I found poker. Poker was attractive to me because it was something that kind of got me out of my shell. Like I said, I was a loner. I was the guy that ate lunch by himself on the hill outside in high school, in junior high, and I saw something in poker that it was 8 or 9 people all around, not necessarily the same interests, but it let me take part in conversations that I wanted to. I didn't have to take part in what I didn't, and I could just observe and take part where I wanted, and that was really attractive to me. Now, I kind of started winning a little bit here and there and going down that road of thinking a little heavier about it. Well, getting to my senior year of college, and I'm still, tennis is going great. My relationships seem to be going great, but I'm still going down a rough road with girls. And I end up finishing college and moving back to Utah to kind of see what I wanted to do. Now, moved out here actually with my girlfriend my senior year, and again, we weren't living a godly life, but we were claiming Christianity. This is when things really started to turn. I ended up breaking up with her right before we had been together for a year. And that's when I started getting into drinking. I started dabbling a little bit, not doing a lot of drugs, but dabbling, and really starting to put more time into poker and seeing if that's where I wanted to be, because I really didn't know what I wanted to do, even though I had a business administration degree. Well, made a little bit here and there with poker, and it led to what some people would call a career. If you ask a lot of people, a lot of people would consider me a professional poker player given some of the accomplishments that I had, but it was always a way. I didn't treat it professionally. It was always a way for me to not get another job. So I treated it kind of as just a hobby to make money, but not really take life too seriously and kind of party. And I really started slipping. I really started drinking a lot. I had a kind of a big entrance into the poker world in 2004, and I saw that a lot of the top players, not just a lot of them were high, but doing some of the hardest drugs, and I saw their success, and it kind of wrapped me in. I started drinking a lot. I started smoking a lot of weed and doing coke pretty much daily for a long time. Now, not just coke, meth, I mean, you name it. There isn't a drug out there that I haven't touched. So this led me to a really, really dark path. The poker world is a dark place. Not only is it a place of deception, there's good parts about it, but it overall, all of the fruits that you saw in the poker world, it was the enemy trying to wrap me into a life of depression and anger and wrath and lustful thoughts, and I just started spiraling. I was doing okay with poker here and there, but my life, I was not living for Christ at all. I was falling away in a big way. I mean, between sleeping around to doing the gauntlet of drugs, I was going down an incredibly dark path. And that path I stayed on for, so about a decade and a half, I would say I was on this path. And it was brutal. I was tearing myself up. I was addicted to drugs. I was addicted to sex. And when it wasn't sex, I would be addicted to porn. I was a liar. I was deceitful. I was the opposite of what God had planned for me. And it all got wrapped in because of my lust for money, my lust for women. And it led me to, which this is the light to dark. I started off on a really good path, and Satan kind of got at me and twisted me in a way where my darkness is really what made me who I am today, which I'll go into next. But basically, where we're at now is I'm living a life of sin in every single regard. And if you want to know how the story ends, I'll finish up in part 2.